now for all your lawn care needs, it's Nirvana!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge. I'm Dave, and this is Matt, and today we're joined by our expert on today's subject, Mikey T.
Thanks for the invite to the lounge.
Hey, thanks for coming down here. We always love having guests, especially when it makes picking the topic so easy. And it sounds like maybe you know a little bit about Sir Kurt Cobain that we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah.
Have you always been into his music, or you probably grew up with him? I'm a little bit behind you and Davey on age, but
yeah, it was like the 90s. So then I found Bleach after finding Nevermind. So
excellent. I've never really given Nirvana a chance. It just has never been on it's just never been on my radar, and probably because I was like 7 when he died or something like that.
Yeah, we're sitting on my girlfriend's dad's Corvette, or no, Camaro, and that was the first time I heard it.
Okay.
So that's weird. You can remember the first time you hear a song.
Oh, for sure. How about you, Davey?
Oh, Smells Like Teen Spirit? Probably, I don't know, late night MTV. Just back when they would, like, I don't know what the last show was, like Beavis and Butthead, and then after that, for like hours, would just be straight music videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Back when it was music?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was growing up, it was like 8 different real worlds. So I kind of got the crummy tail end of that MTV experience.
Yeah. I also think in high school is when the Unplug album dropped, and that was after he passed away. And I knew a lot of friends that were like, you can hear, I don't know, his inflection and like the pain in his voice. And,
okay.
Yeah, and that's when it really got me hooked, because when you're sitting there as a high schooler, probably a little medicated, and you're just like zoning into it, and it's like, damn, this guy has soul for like a grunge like artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife always compliments the MTV Unplugged with him.
Yeah.
She talks really good about all the MTV Unpluggeds, but them and one other one she talks about, I can't remember off the top of my head. Alice in Chains, I think it was.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah, super good one. I did watch that one.
So not this weekend, but the weekend before, a friend surprised me to a little bar in Rock Island that used to be a church, Skylark, yeah, that place is cool. And he didn't tell me where we were going and who it was, and it was Alice in Chains and Nirvana Unplugged.
Damn, that's what's up.
Yeah.
It was like video or whatever?
No.
Oh.
Live?
A cover.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense.
No, they're not really dead. Tupac was there. Elvis was serving beers.
Yeah, I didn't. I had heard about Bleach. It was Soaked in Bleach, and then also Kurt and Courtney. Is that the other one? My wife's more of the true crime nut, so I got a lot of my information kind of secondhand from her. But it was pretty interesting, some of the things that were brought up.
Yeah, and that's crazy. You said it was like last weekend or like 2 weekends ago.
No, then not this weekend, like yesterday.
Yeah,
Friday, the weekend before that.
Okay,
so it was probably because of the death date.
Yeah, it
was exactly on
his
April 5th.
Yeah, which is kind of why I thought about doing this in April. We did a heavy one with JFK, and then we did kind of a lighter one with Colonel
Richard Byrd.
But I figured, got to get it in April, so let's get back to the true crime a little bit and jump in here and see what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And as always, the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast is your jumping off point. If you hear some stuff you think is interesting, feel free to research it yourself and let us know more about it. And if you have any requests on topics or anything like that, hit us up in any sort of comments or emails or whatever.
Yeah, drop it in the Facebook group or on the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, check out the Facebook group. We're always posting stuff after hours on there, goofy alien videos and music and stuff.
Yeah, or things that like I'll talk about or you'll talk about on the pod, and then I'll go back and be like, oh, here's that video clip or here's that picture.
Yeah, Davey's the man about re-listening to episodes. I gotta listen to this thing 18 times before I get the edit down. So,
well, speaking of conspiracies, one of the things I learned, well, I've known it for a long time, but not everything, but I guess Kurt didn't want to play Lollapalooza.
Yeah, he pulled out of like a multi-million-dollar contract.
And that pissed Courtney off, and they got in a fight, and he got charged with domestic whatever.
Dispute?
Yeah. And so they took away all his guns. And I'm not sure how much time over that, but he was talking about getting divorced. And she was talking about the same thing, unless he went to rehab.
Yeah.
So he went to rehab, I think, only a day.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is in their Seattle home on March 18th, Courtney called the police after Kurt locked himself in a room with a gun and was threatening to shoot himself. When the police arrived, Kurt let him right into the room and said he wasn't trying to kill himself, but instead he was hiding from Courtney.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. It was like the cop went around to the back to try to get in, and Kurt was just in the backyard with his hands in his pocket, kind of looking embarrassed that the cops were there.
Yeah.
And not suicidal at all. And he said he just locked himself in his room because Courtney was a raging bitch, and he just wanted to ignore her, lock himself in the room.
Yeah.
But I guess on the airplane back, he was sitting next to Duff from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, okay.
And they hated each other, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, because him and Axl Rose had a big feud. That's like one of those little facts that Kurt Cobain used to check into hotel rooms under the name Bill Bailey, which is Axl Rose's real name.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
But before we get too far, today we're talking about Kurt Cobain, obviously the lead singer and frontman for the band Fecal Matter that everybody knows.
Of course.
Yes.
Or they used to want to do Ted, Ed, and Fred.
Ted, Ed, and Fred. Yeah. Was that another band?
No, that's before they found Nirvana.
Oh, okay.
And then Skid Row was another one.
Oh, but there was already a Skid Row. Yeah. But yeah, he's probably known better for Nirvana, for all your lawn care needs. But he was born in Aberdeen, Washington on February 20th, 1967 to Wendy and Donald Cobain. And they said as a kid he was super creative and would paint and draw a lot. And if you look up anything about Kurt Cobain, you can see some of his paintings, and they're kind of dark, and like he was really big into anatomy and stuff, and like to collect medical charts and like fetuses and that Invisible Man statue where you can see all the guts and stuff. Yeah. But when at age 9, his parents got divorced, and he went to live with his dad because his mom was young and hot, and so she was more into like partying and stuff. And so he went to live with his dad until he was 11, and then his dad started dating and like got remarried, and Kurt was kind of like, this is weird, because like it was just him and his dad, and now he's got to deal with his new lady and her 2 already born kids. So they tried to go back to his mom's, but her boyfriend was like a huge dickhead, and so then he went to live with his grandparents. But then at that time Kurt was getting like preteen, like angsty, moody, hormony, and he really hated authority, so his favorite thing to do was do what the opposite of what everybody wanted him to do.
Throw rocks at cop cars.
And so then he ended up bouncing around from different relatives, like uncles and aunts and cousins, and then back to his mom's, and then to his grandma's, and then maybe go live with his dad for a little bit. But one of the big turning points of his life was when he turned 14. His uncle was a musician also. He had a band. I think one of his aunts also had a band. So there was like music in the family, and they were kind of a creative family for being like, for lack of a better term, like dirty people. But on his 14th birthday, his uncle asked him, "You want a bicycle or an electric guitar?" And Kurt chose an electric guitar. And then he started playing like a lot of like Zeppelin and Black Sabbath covers, and then started dicking around on his own, like finding his own like rhythms and stuff. And his uncle ended up talking to one of his friends from his band to like give Kurt some guitar lessons, and then from after that, that's like all he would do. If he wasn't like fucking around at school or hanging out with friends smoking pot, he would just be playing guitar like all the time. And it was Buzz Osborne, the frontman for the Melvins.
Oh, okay.
Who actually introduced Kurt to the Seattle like punk rock scene. And then after that, like seeing how all these angsty people are making music like really raw, like pretty, like distorted, heavy, just raw, basic music that punk rock is. And he fell in love with that. And then he started his first band, the proper name for shit, Fecal Matter. And that was in 1985. And he started that band with Del Grover, who would later go on to be a drummer for the Melvins. And he was actually the first drummer in Nirvana, because he's on Bleach. He's got a couple of songs on Bleach, and some in Utero, and a couple on Incesticide. Okay. And so they recorded like 18 songs as Fecal Matter, just like a demo tape. And Kurt described their sound as abrasive, like very abrasive.
Abrasive.
Yeah, and he would pass out these demo tapes at Melvin's concerts, because by this time he dropped out of high school, kind of. Like he went all the way to senior year, but then didn't have enough credits to graduate. And instead of doing like summer school or doing another year, he's just like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't like this anyway.
He ended up working there.
Yeah,
as a janitor.
Yeah,
that's funny.
He came back it was like a couple months or something later, or like a year. Yeah, and ended up being a janitor at his old high school.
That's funny.
And that's one of those fun facts on Smells Like Teen Spirit. At the end, they show the janitor cleaning up the prep rally.
Oh,
that was Kurt wanted that in there with the same uniform that he wore as a janitor.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, while I was passing out these tapes for Fecal Matter, that's when he ran into Chris Novoselic, a bassist, and he started playing with Kurt and that Grover, and they didn't have a name. That's when they were called like Skid Row, or would you say Ted and Eddie?
Ted, Ed, and Fred.
Ted, Ed, and Fred. And they would play like little shitty like bars and shit. But then they started playing college parties, which kind of got a little swell going for them. And then they started, I wish I wrote it down, but then they signed it with an indie label. And then that's when they came out with Bleach.
For what, $600 it cost them?
Yeah, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, because it was like it was something like $10 or $20 an hour for the studio time. And so they pretty much tapped out at $600. And they still had more songs, but they didn't have money to record them. And so they were able to cut that album. And one of those other like trivia facts is Kurt took it to the radio station and was like, here's our album, can you play it? Because it's like a college radio station. And the guy's like, sure. So then he ended up driving around all day with his friends, waiting to hear his music on the radio. Until finally at like 7 o'clock at night, he like made one of his friends call the radio station and request a Nirvana song. And of course, when he heard his song on the radio, then he was like super hooked, and he's like, okay, this is definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life, and is to be in Nirvana. And Kurt explained the name, how they came up with the name Nirvana is because he was kind of religious, but not really. He just would read about religion because it was interesting. And he said Nirvana is freedom from pain, suffering, and the external world.
So like enlightenment.
Yeah, enlightenment. They started going on tour, and that's when he kind of started to hate doing tours.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about what time he started to have like stomach issues, like really bad. And they think that he was probably had like Crohn's disease, but it was undiagnosed. And so then he started to like self-medicate with like heroin, just like small doses here and there. But then going on tour was really like messing with him, and he didn't really enjoy it. And then he also developed his hate for the media, just like, morning DJs and local newscasters, because they weren't huge, but they'd still have to do, like the radio stations and answer questions for fansies and say the same thing 5 times a day. Like, oh no, I'm from Aberdeen, Washington, and so then he would get away. He would pretty much run away from that, but then go to a park, and if you'd see a kid with like a Nirvana shirt on, he'd go up to him and be like, "Hey, I'm Kurt Cobain, you want an autograph or anything?" Like, and because he really liked his fans, so he was really doing the music for the fans, and he kind of hated the business and the media aspect of all that.
Yeah.
And
well, I got a couple more fun facts about Bleach.
all right.
So the last drummer they had was Chad Channing,
Yeah.
and they fired him because he wasn't hitting hard enough. And then David Everman, he got fired because he played a Stratocaster.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that. And he said he was moody, so he ended up playing Soundgarden, and then joined the Navy SEALs.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh yeah, what a weird jump.
Yeah.
But I guess if art isn't working for you, then get a little structure in your life.
Yeah, because they had a couple drummers that did go on to other bands, like you said, Soundgarden, and then probably got fired or quit Soundgarden, Navy SEAL, and then that's when they hooked up with David Grohl.
Yeah.
Which is
who's the best person in the world, I think.
Just a happy guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems all right. I can point to certain videos and things that I've seen where, but that was also later in the band, close to after they ditched the Lollapalooza and money issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and nobody's perfect, but like he does a bunch of work with like Tenacious D.
Yeah,
his Hot Ones is like one of the best Hot Ones that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
He's, for everything that I've seen him in, he's just been great.
I've seen him do like cookouts for neighborhoods and stuff.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, he does a barbecue and stuff.
Yeah.
So then they had a solid 3 in their band, and Bleach was taken off, and they did a whole tour in Europe with Sonic Youth and another band.
Bikini Kill.
Was it Bikini Kill?
I don't know if it was that early, but I found out that he was sleeping with Chloe.
Toby. Yeah. Because that's actually like the origin story for Smells Like Teen Spirit. Because Teen Spirit was
I think it read that that's how Drain You kind of came about.
Yeah.
Was her.
Yeah, he wrote a couple songs about her. But Smells Like Teen Spirit, for all the younger people, Teen Spirit was a deodorant. Back in
really?
The day. Yeah.
I've seen it last summer. Yeah, last summer.
Oh, yeah?
I've seen it.
Damn.
Oh. Because I was thinking, I'm like, next time I walk down the deodorant aisle, if I see one, I'll just pick it up for fun, just to have it.
Yeah.
But,
it was in the clearance aisle.
But Kurt was also notorious for not using deodorant. And so one night after a concert, he was particularly stinky. And it was either Cataline Hanna, which was the lead singer of the Bikini Kills, or it was Toby Vale, who was like one of the guitarists, I think. But either way, one of them just was going around a party being like, Kurt smells like Teen Spirit, and then they ended up spray painting it on his bedroom wall.
Damn.
Yeah. And that's where he got the title for Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. And then that's really when Nirvana started taking off, was in 1991 with the release of Nevermind and the single Smells Like Teen Spirit.
The year punk broke.
Yeah, that's what they called it. The year punk broke, or the death of hair bands.
Oh.
Yeah. But in 9 weeks, it went platinum.
Damn.
Yeah, they sold a shitload of copies. It was even on the Billboard Top 200 for 5 years straight. Like, when he came out, he unseated Michael Jackson kicked him off the charts.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you remember the 10-minute hidden song on Nevermind? Endless Nameless?
I'd have to hear it again. I should have did more research, but I was too busy watching interviews and stuff. And only like some music, when I would get bored, I'd be like, oh, I really want to listen to this.
Well, you got to wait 10 minutes. So.
Well, yeah, to be like,
but I think it's only on limited editions, so they only did that when it first came out.
oh, okay. So like the first pressing or something?
Something like that.
Okay. And then shortly after this is when he...
Now, when did CDs come out? Would their stuff all have been before CD? Would have been a cassette?
It was... CDs were right around that time.
Yeah.
Like the 90s.
Because I have other cassettes, too, so...
Okay. Well, and there was for sure a time where they were doing both.
Yeah, because I think 94, 95 was when CDs were really hitting their stride.
Yeah.
Because I think, I was not driving and I got my first CD player.
Yeah. I wonder how media works in bands' favors or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can see that. Well, like, it's what the media is. I think back when records and tapes and CDs were a thing, it worked more in their favor because you can get royalties on that pretty easily.
Oh.
But now, when everybody just wants that one song,
yeah, yeah,
and they're paying 2 pennies to Apple to get it,
yeah,
like how much of that is actually going to the artist?
Yeah,
you know?
And for sure, they would have been out with at least tape decks, and like a tape deck is way easier to. Well, you can play it in your car. You can take it to your friend's house way easier. You could take a stack or a bag full of tape decks,
yeah,
a little bit easier than a big handful of records,
right? Have a whole like milk crate you're taking to your friends.
Yeah, right. Which I'm sure happened all the time.
Yeah, and tapes I think were really cool because that's when dubbing started.
Yeah.
So if your friend got the tape, then you could just copy it over.
Yeah, when you could start recording, Nirvana off the radio on a tape deck, that would have been huge.
Yeah, and back then people didn't complain. They weren't Metallica-izing the situation. They were just like, let them record off the radio. They're still going to come to our concerts.
There were bad things about cassettes. The tape player would eat them.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to hear a certain song, you'd have to fast forward it or turn it to try to get to the right song.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that was huge technology when some like super fancy tape players would have a skip button that would be like 3 minutes long, so you could almost skip a song, but it'd still be like
and then eat your tape.
Yeah, and then eat your tape. And then it was around this time when they broke, but they weren't quite seeing the money for it yet, is when Kurt ended up meeting Courtney Love at a Butthole Surfers concert. And the story is that Kurt didn't give a fuck because he didn't really like recognize when girls were hitting on him, kind of thing, because he's an introvert and he's always just been whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you hear a lot of stories about like some artists who are like more profound, potentially having like what do you call them, like an ADHD or an autism or something, being a little bit more on the spectrum than other people,
Kinda. I just think he's a skinny kid who was grungy, and so probably during high school and stuff, not a lot of girls were interested in him anyway.
Yeah.
And he was more interested in like art and his guitar, and so as he became famous and chicks were hitting on him, he didn't really know what that was. So it took her like consistently hounding him until one time they were at some concert, I think it was like Mudhoney, and she was pretty much like, I'm your girlfriend, and he's like, oh, okay.
Damn.
And then they pretty much bonded over music, obviously. And
what band was she in?
Hole,
okay.
Oh, that's another fun fact. In 1983, for 6 months, Courtney Love was actually the lead singer of Faith No More.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's stuff on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Like with her as the lead singer, I'd like some live performances, and it's, for being a punk rocker who likes that raw sound, I'd still say it's not great. It reminds me a little bit of like Yoko Ono. Like what is that? But yeah, Hole actually is not a bad band. Like, for as much as what I think about Courtney Love, like, her music is still pretty good.
There's one song I like on her one album.
Don't be too specific.
Yeah,
please.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, and so pretty much they started dating and almost became like a grunge rock power couple. And they ended up like so they met in 91,
which is probably what Courtney wanted.
I think that's kind of what she was orchestrating, because she's also known for like seeing talent and then latching onto it, because she dated Billy Corrigan of the Smashing Pumpkins.
It was that or the lead singer of Bush?
That too. I think what I've heard is right after Kurt, she dated the guy from Bush, because there is a conspiracy theory where if you listen to Bush's first song, her first album, like that Glycerine song and all those other ones, that with different guitar and like a different voice, it's kind of Nirvana lyrics.
Yeah, I always thought the same thing.
Yeah, so, and Courtney was dating him about the time their band was about to break.
Okay.
But yeah, and before she got into bands, she kind of like to be like the lead singer of Faith No More for a little bit. Her thing was she was a trust fund kid, and she like sued her mom to get emancipated when she was like 16.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then the court ruling was that she would get an $800 allowance a month, which in nowadays is like $2,000.
Holy shit.
So yeah, she would show up to like these band practices and be like, hey, you guys want Taco Bell? Or hey, you want to get some acid? Like, and she like pretty much paid for a lot of stuff just to get in with that scene and become part of it.
I had some of those friends. I wasn't going to turn down Taco Bell and acid.
Right. But yeah, and then in February of 1992, they got married after they found out Courtney was pregnant with Francis Bean. And they got married in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And
I think it's just them two and Chris.
Maybe. I think so. It was very small, and like Courtney had this like silk lace like white evening gown, and Kurt couldn't find anything to wear, so he just wore his pajamas. Yeah, and before they got married, they actually signed a prenup, and it was Courtney's idea, because Hole just signed like a multi-million-dollar deal, which was more than Kurt got for Nevermind on the same label. And there's a story behind that too, where Courtney didn't want to sign unless she could see Kurt's contract and then get promised a better contract than he got.
Damn.
That's the rumors that I heard. But then that's why she wanted to sign a prenup, because she thought that her band was going to be bigger than Nirvana.
Yeah.
And
knowing other people's money can start trouble.
Yeah. Right. And then they had a kid, obviously, and that's kind of when stuff starts going weird, because in a Vanity Fair article,
all the media around it, but there was a Vanity Fair article where Courtney said something about using heroin on a certain day, like, oh, I was with Kurt on this day and we were doing heroin, we're silly, look at us. And then someone realized that she would have had to been pregnant, because far along she was probably pregnant when she did heroin on that day. And so then everybody was like, well, she's doing heroin while she's pregnant, and it became a thing that like they had to actually like do like a cease and desist order to be like, stop, because she did clean up, but maybe before she found out she was pregnant, she did some heroin. But when she went to give birth, Kurt actually, I don't know if he OD'd, but he was in the hospital. I don't know if he was like trying to clean up because he's got a kid coming or what reason, but he was in rehab at the same hospital that his daughter was born in.
That's crazy.
I don't know if it's the same hospital, but it was in Paris.
It was in Paris? Okay. But then there's a report that says she had methadone in her system when she gave birth. So then Child Protective Services came and took the kid.
Damn.
For like 3 weeks while they like figured everything out. And then they're like, well, as long as you have a live-in nanny, we'll give you the kid back. And I think they had a family member for a little bit, but then they ended up hiring a guy named Callie, who used to be a roadie for Hole.
That's the babysitter.
That's the babysitter.
Courtney Love just seems so incestual.
Like, keep it close.
Yeah.
And so, and then, you know, fast forward, because they were only married for 2 years, so fast forward like a year, and after In Utero came out is when they got offered Lollapalooza, and that's when Kurt turned it down. And
had he not done Lollapalooza before?
I think they've done it before.
Oh, okay.
It's just on this time, I think they toured a bunch for In Utero, and he was just kind of burnt out. And just before this, when they were getting their royalty checks for In Utero, Courtney happened to look at his check and was like, this is the same amount that the other band members got. And he's like, yeah, we split it 3 ways. Like, that's how you do it. And she's like, no, you write the songs, you sing, you need more. And like hounded him until he went to the band and was like, hey guys, can I have more money? And so then they were pissed off at him, like, why are you asking? Like, when we started this, that's not what we agreed on, and now all of a sudden you want more money. And he's like,
a real Yoko Ono vibe.
Yeah. And so then that kind of started to put a rift in the band. And then with touring and then the stress, and then they asked Lollapalooza, and Courtney was kind of pushing them, because her story is that she turned it down so that he could have it, like a headliner, because they wanted Hole to headline, but she's like, no, why don't you ask Nirvana to headline? And then Kurt's like, I don't want to do that. And so she was pissed, and I think probably maybe at that time some of the other band members were mad, because that's like $7 million or some shit like that he's turning down. And then so they're pretty much on the verge of breaking up.
Yeah, and I think even Dave Grohl had an interview later that said, like, yeah, we were pretty much talking about breaking up when that happened. Yeah,
because and he was having all these problems with Courtney being overbearing, and he's trying not to believe the rumors about, you know, her being on heroin while pregnant, even though he was there. And so there's just all this tension. And before their last concert in Munich at the Terminal 1 Flughafen München, he called his entertainment lawyer and asked to rewrite his will to exclude Courtney from it.
Damn.
Yeah, and then he went on stage. They played their last concert, but he ended up getting. It wasn't their last concert at the time, but he ended up getting bronchitis, so they had to
bronchitis and laryngitis.
Yeah, so they had to end up canceling the rest of the tour. And from there, he flew to Rome to recover and to meet up with Courtney. And that night they were going to celebrate because he'd been on the road and they haven't seen each other for a while. And so they decided to get some champagne and some rohypnol.
I think that was the medicine for his
stomach.
Yeah, either the stomach or the bronchitis. And
yeah, but that's roofies. Why would they give you a date rape drug for bronchitis?
I know it was only him and her.
Yeah, it was
in the hotel.
Yeah.
Well, I think it probably started as something else. The side effects allowed it to become roofies, right?
No,
that's what I would think.
No, it was actually rohypnol, because one of the...
Well, like, rohypnol was made as a drug for something before you could get it out of the back door for
I guess for pain relief or whatever.
Yeah.
But the story is
maybe to help you sleep if you got a bad cough or something.
Yeah, I can see that, because it was like an anesthesia.
Yeah, I'll Google it while you talk.
Yeah, but can you mix those two?
Yeah, alcohol and downers? Probably not. And they said, this is one of the things where, like, there's so much information that you can get, but each story has a different variation to it.
Right.
Because they said that they got the pills from, like, a bellhop. They were like, hey, man, can you get us some drugs? And he's like, yeah, sure thing. Whatever. You're going to give me money. I can get you something.
Google says that it's used to treat severe insomnia and assist with anesthesia. So I could see it being prescribed as a sleep aid.
Okay. Yeah, but it was just those two in the hotel room. And Courtney said she fell asleep because she'd just flown there that day and she was tired, and they were drinking and had a couple pills. And then when she woke up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, she found him unresponsive with blood coming out of his nose.
And you know what? When I heard that story, I took it more as she had showed up the next morning, but she was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They were celebrating together.
Okay. That makes the champagne make way more sense. Like, oh, you're going to get champagne also with medicine, but that makes more sense.
Yeah. And she said she tried to revive him or get him to wake up, and she couldn't get him to wake up. And then she called the cops, pretty much, and they came over and rushed him over. But there's pictures.
Yeah, there's a weird pictures of them in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, and there's one of her standing behind the ambulance, but her makeup's done. And I'm not a girl, but if you pass out with really thick red lipstick, don't you think it'd be like smeared, or your hair would be fucked up?
Especially then, the makeup wasn't quite as good. Like, my wife buys nice makeup that doesn't smear so much.
Yeah.
And that couldn't have been around in the 80s, 90s.
Well, you don't think so, but that's one of the things where they're like, she was, because it's like, if she was so concerned about her husband. And she seems
like that kind of, like, oh, the paparazzi's going to be out there, so I need to make sure I look good.
So you call the cops, and then you do your makeup while they're on the way. Yeah. But he was in a coma for a little bit, and then he revives, but he's got like tubes in his throat and everything. And they give him like a notepad, and the first thing he writes is "fuck you." Shows it to Courtney.
Damn.
Yeah. And that incident is what they used to talk about, like, when he committed suicide later, and that was probably his first attempt. But the doctor at the scene said that it just looked like an accident, like he was just being a dumbass.
Yeah, from what I heard, Kurt and his management, which his management's not going to say anything that Kurt doesn't say.
Right.
And they're going to say, even if Kurt said, yeah, I was trying to kill myself, his management's just going to be like, no. But the doctor, I feel like him saying it was...
Yeah, the doctor seemed like it was an accident, because after his death, that's when Courtney started saying that was a suicide attempt, and that they pumped like 70 pills out of his stomach. But if you get a prescription, like, especially...
You would never get 70 pills.
Especially if, like, a downer or like a sleep aid.
Like, the most you would get would be like a month, right?
Right. And
like I said, it was only them two there.
Right, like, and maybe she roofied him.
Whoa.
The old Bill Cosby. But yeah, the doctor said there was no near that many pills that they pumped out of his stomach. But then after that, they went back to Seattle, and that's when they had that fight that we were talking about.
And that was in March.
Yeah.
Early March. March 3rd is when he ended up going to the hospital, I believe. Or maybe it was 4th.
March 4th, yeah. 1994.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I finish my story about how his best friend Dylan went and bought him a shotgun?
No, but we can get to that.
Well, that's where we're at right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they came back. Courtney... They're obviously about to get divorced because they have the same entertainment lawyer, and she calls the lawyer and is like, I need you to get me the most vicious, harshest divorce lawyer you can. And like, she's like, oh geez, okay. So then there's records that obviously they were going to get divorced if Courtney needs a divorce lawyer. And then she does the thing, his guns get taken away.
And that was the story you started on, with him locking himself in a room, supposedly threatening to kill himself. And that's obviously Courtney's words again.
Yes.
And then when that all got over...
He got domestic, and the cops took all of his guns away.
Yes.
Yeah, and then, I guess, shortly after that, because of the Rome incident and now this domestic dispute file. They had an intervention for him, like the guys in the band and Courtney and like the lawyers and managers and stuff. And he pretty much got like shamed into going to rehab, like, hey, you probably got a problem or whatever. And he didn't want to go at first, but like 2 days later he finally like checked himself in, because there's a story where Chris Novoselic was driving him to the airport and walking him through the airport, because back then you could walk him all the way to the boarding gate. And then Kurt was like, fuck this, and tried to run, and he tried to grab him, but they had this big fight in the airport and Kurt ran away. But then the next day he ended up going back to the airport and hopping on the plane to go down to LA to get into the Exodus Recovery Center. But after the intervention, but before he got on the airplane, that's when he got with his friend
Duh. I don't think they were friends. Well,
no, I meant his friend Dylan.
Oh, yeah, Dylan.
Yeah.
Carlson?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, Dylan Carlson. And he got with him to like buy him a shotgun, because he didn't want it in his name, because if the cops saw him, they would probably confiscate it again.
He wouldn't have been able to buy one.
Yeah. And his thing was, where their house was in Seattle was right next to a park, and the only protection they had was like a big row of bushes, like tall bushes, but there was no fence. And once the fans realized that's where he lived, they would just walk through the park and through the bushes to get onto his property. And he didn't have security or a security system, so pretty much he's like, I need guns just in case people break into my house. And he didn't feel safe. He's paranoid. He's a drug guy, and he's an introvert. So on top of, so he needs a gun. But then he goes to rehab. He's only there for 2 days. But the doctors say he was cooperating. He was sharing, at group and doing all the things. And the people that came to visit him said that he was like happy, like more up. Like he wasn't sad. It didn't really look like he was going through withdrawals super bad.
Yeah, when he got out, it sounded like I had heard he called his grandmother to make plans to go fishing with his grandfather.
Yeah.
In a couple of days or something.
Yeah, because also theory behind that is like, I don't know if it's the roofies, but he actually got medicine that took care of his stomach, so he wasn't doing heroin as much because he wasn't as in pain anymore. So that's why when he was in rehab, he was just kind of like, hey, cheery and like doing okay, not going through like heavy withdrawals.
Yeah.
Because some people think like maybe he was doing drugs in rehab. That's why it didn't seem like he was going through withdrawals. But then there's also he got the proper medicine he needed for his stomach, so then he wasn't doing the heroin, so the withdrawals weren't as bad.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, he was there for 2 days and then was out smoking one night and was like, you know what, fuck this, and jumped over a 6-foot wall.
Damn.
And hopped on a plane back up to Seattle.
I wonder if he could have just checked himself out.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how that kind of system works.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, if it's not court ordered, I'm pretty sure you can check yourself out whenever you want, right?
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Even if it's court ordered, and you check yourself out, I would imagine you would just go to jail instead or something,
Yeah, you would think. Something like that. They track you down. And that's when he went back to Seattle, and that's when things get kind of blurry, like, as to what happened.
And that jumping over the wall thing makes a little bit of sense, because at that time, Courtney had hired a private investigator to find him.
Yeah, after he left rehab.
Yeah.
And that was Tom Grant.
Yeah. That fucker.
But that Soaked in Bleach documentary is actually how they did it was he recorded everything, because from the start he didn't really trust her, because I think he went to a hotel to meet her, but she was all strung out and weird, acting weird. So he's like, I'm going to record all my interactions with this lady, because he felt like something wasn't right. And so he's got all these hours of tape, and then they took the tapes and then had actors reenact the tapes.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it like starts as like Courtney, and then it like transfers into the actor, and then her like doing the thing.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat, but then some people have said that when they got interviewed for that documentary, some of their stuff was taken out of context to kind of fit a narrative.
Yeah.
Because even if it's
as a hour-long documentary happens,
yeah,
I feel like most people don't make documentaries to find out what's going to happen. They have an idea and they roll with it
to go from there.
Yeah. And you got to make the documentary compelling so people watch it.
Yeah. And so she said she didn't know where Kurt was, and she filed a missing persons report with the Seattle Police Department as Kurt Cobain's mom instead of as Courtney Love.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, her what she says is that she knew her reputation and knew that they probably wouldn't take her seriously.
I feel like the cops gotta, but you know what? She's also a drug addict too, so
yeah. But it's also could be like because it, what's that? Validity. It makes it more valid that somebody like his mom is concerned that he's missing and might be suicidal. And so she's got the private investigator, and he wants to go search the houses in Seattle, but Courtney was kind of hesitant. But then she kind of fake OD'd and then got arrested for having like a syringe and a prescription pad in her hotel room. So then she went to jail, and then she was like, oh, now you can go search the house. Like now
and I think he searched it on the 2nd. Was the first time he went through the house with one of Cobain's friends.
What do you mean? Who found him?
The
private detective went to the house to search for him.
And then that was on the 2nd, and they were checking out all of his normal haunts as well. And I believe they went back on like the 5th or the 6th and searched the house again.
Yeah, they searched it once, and then Courtney talked to him on the phone and was like, hey, there's a secret compartment in our bedroom, like in the closet. Why don't you go back and look in there and see if the shotgun's in there? Because she wanted to find the shotgun. And then when they did, there just happened to be this note on the stairs
from the
nanny to Kurt that was like super weird. There's like, I can't believe you're in the house and you didn't tell me, or that I didn't even notice you were here. Courtney's had an accident and she needs you to call her, at least tell her that you're okay, man. You're a dick, like you're married, man. Fucking call her, she's worried. And the detective was like, or the private eye was like, we just searched this house, we didn't see this note, and supposedly no one's been in the house, but now that there's this note on the stairs in a random spot, which is kind of curious. And then so obviously they didn't find the gun in the little crawl space or whatever, and they left. And the next day they were going to like his beach house, some other house that he had to search, and that's when the
security system guy, the electrician.
He went there to do electrical work and found him on the floor. And
where did you find him at?
Up above the room in the garage.
Yeah, because they like searched the whole house, and I guess it was raining or something.
And nighttime.
Yeah, so he didn't know there was a room above the garage.
But like I seen pictures, and it's like it's a full second story with windows. And also, why wouldn't you search the garage? Like you're gonna miss the whole garage.
Wouldn't there be stairs going up there?
Yeah, from the graphics I saw,
or a door from in the house going up there.
I think it was like an outdoor stairwell going up, and like also a deck. But then
there's like a balcony.
You also have the garage itself.
Yeah, well, I can see if there's not a stairs inside the garage and you didn't walk around it, you maybe don't see it.
Yeah,
but that was an odd one. And also
private detectives are usually cops that are bad at their jobs. So
I guess this guy had a good rap sheet, though, is what they said.
Of stepping on necks, Dave.
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain's white. He wasn't in a big hurry to find him.
I'm sure. But so the electrician guy called his boss, and then his boss was like, okay, yeah, we should call the cops. And so while the one guy is calling the cops, the boss calls the radio station.
Yeah, that's weird, huh?
Yeah. And it's like, I got something for you. Like, we just found Kurt Cobain shot in the head or whatever. And it was like the private detective heard about it on the radio and was like, what? And then like a lot of his family members, also that's how they found out he was dead, which is kind of shitty.
Yeah. You're just trying to get your 5 minutes of fame or whatever.
Yeah.
First time I seen it was it Kurt Loder on MTV?
Yeah.
Announce it.
Yeah. Kurt Loder, MTV News.
Yeah, so then the police do show up about 30 minutes later after it's announced all over the radio and news.
Yeah. So there's probably a media frenzy already starting.
Oh, for sure. The hornet's nest is getting wound up.
Yeah.
And then
they probably had to get security from keeping people away from there.
yeah, a good thing the cops were there, right? Well, I guess even in now that you say that, even in pictures, it looks like there's a lot of people kind of standing around gawking.
Yeah, because even like fans were just showing up to stand at the end of the driveway.
Yeah,
looky-loo.
Be in the park.
Yeah, because they found him. They had to wait for the fire department to come because the door was locked. So that's like one thing that was like, oh, well, he must have done it to himself. The door was locked, but it was like one of those like bathroom locks that you can lock while the door's open and then close it behind you. And they also said that there was a stool propped up against the door, but it wasn't the door they came in. It was the door to the balcony. So it wasn't like
That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, then all the heroin they found in his system would have killed a horse.
Yeah, that's what they said too. They had like 3 or 4 times the amount of like a heavy junkie would take.
It sounds like the drug experts are kind of up and down on that, in that, you know, with heroin, it sounds like to me that not one specific amount. You can't like go over the threshold of death. Like, as your body gets used to it, your tolerance kind of alleviates that threshold to kill you. Which I feel like I heard experts say he had enough to kill him, and then I heard experts say, well, maybe not. You know, which.
But they're saying if he's that had that much in his system, there's no way he could have picked up a gun and shot him.
Yeah, they. I feel like they did agree that he should have been incapacitated with that much.
Yeah, because they haven't done the studies on the tolerances, like you said. But there was like this one expert that, like a pathologist or whatever, that worked on suicides, and he said that much heroin, even if it didn't kill him right away, he would have passed out. He wouldn't have like been able to like roll, because I guess there were marks on both of his arms, like that were fresh, but one of his sleeves was rolled down and buttoned, and all the kit and everything was put away.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if you have that much hair, you're gonna pass out with a needle in your arm.
Yeah, I don't know how
your bloodstream.
Really, I guess I don't know enough about heroin on how it works, but and I'm sure, I hope none of us do, but
well, have you ever seen Train Spotting?
Well, yeah, but like, now that you say that, I have heard people people passing out with needles in their arms. So I mean, that does make sense. Let alone write a note and then shoot yourself.
Well, that's also weird too. Was the suicide note?
Yeah, let's talk about something. So before we get to all the weird conspiracy stuff, he was found with the gun, shot. He had heroin in his systems. The cigar box full of drug paraphernalia was put away. The door was locked, and the police decided that was suicide. The official report says it was suicide.
Yeah, and it's also, that's, I wouldn't say it's part of the conspiracy thing, but it's one of those where they walk in, there's a guy dead on the floor, there's a shotgun, there's a note, hey, it's suicide. And like an hour after his body was found, the PR person for the police department walked down the driveway and was like, hey, we found Kurt Cobain, with a suicide note and a, shotgun blast to the head, or however she put it. And so it had only been an hour, and they're already ruling it as suicide. So if they're already saying that, they're probably not going to start looking and scratching the surface to see what else is going
Well, I think
on.
there was an autopsy.
Yeah, but most of the times when they do autopsies and drug screenings, they won't rule it as a suicide until everything comes back. And they just walked in and said it was a suicide right away. And there's pictures that just came out not too long ago that you can look up of the crime scene.
In 2014.
Yeah, I guess that was pretty long time ago.
But yeah.
But you can see pictures of the detectives, and a lot of them are just like, look bored. They're just standing around. They're not detecting anything. They're just standing there. So they pretty much thought it was open and shut case. But like, the weird stuff is like the suicide note.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. The first part of it seems more like he's saying goodbye to his fans.
Yeah.
Like he's quitting, not necessarily like he's leaving the earth.
And look it up online. The note itself looks weird.
Yeah, because Mike can contest to this, because he's got a book like of Kurt Cobain's notebooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like on the suicide note, at the very bottom, the words got smaller and looked like different handwriting.
Yeah, they got like, the last 4 lines were different.
Yeah, 80% of the note is like well written, and it looks like, from what I had seen, other lyric sheets written by Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, because I know you have that one book that's all his journals, and if you look through it, it looks like how the first part of the suicide note looks, and the way he writes in his journals is that dark,
the wording,
yeah, and it's like that dark 90s kind of grunge, poem type, rant stuff.
Well, like I was telling you on the way here, I couldn't find where the books are buried at.
Yeah,
some box somewhere downstairs.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 lines were like, there were bigger letters and spaced weird. There was a smiley face at the end. It was like, Courtney, be strong for our child or something, with a smiley face after it.
I thought the words were smaller.
Yeah, it's the other way. It goes small and then gets big. The last 4 lines are just big, and it's like love, love, love. And it's also weird because it's after he signed it, where this is at. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like they just ripped a page out of, flipped through his journal, found one that was sad.
Okay, yeah. I remember that now. Yeah,
like sad and melancholy, and just kind of ripped it out and then wrote the part that makes it look like a suicide note. And because there's this, it's called like Snare. It's a computer program to like help analyze suicide notes to see if they're actually suicide notes. But if you're an artist and you write lyrics that are dark and mopey and depressing, that could look like a suicide note if you put at the end, take care, be strong, you'll be better off without me,
Or he'd rather burn out than fade away.
Yeah.
That
was a weird one.
And then actually Unsolved Mysteries did after the police left, that Tom Grant was there with Courtney, and he saw the note and he made a photocopy of it.
Yeah.
So that's like the most predominant thing online that you'll see about the suicide note.
Yeah, he's the reason why you can see it in the first place.
Yeah. And Unsolved Mysteries, Season 9, Episode 11, the third story, they had 2 professional handwriting experts review the note, the photocopy of the note.
Yeah.
And they both agreed that there were inconsistencies within the note, but they weren't willing to make any claims because it was a photocopy. Because, I mean, from what I've seen in previous like handwriting analysis, they do everything from they zero in on it with like a magnifying glass or microscope to be able to tell if it's even the same pen or ink or
live ink.
Yeah, they can tell like if it's done at the same time and things like that. So yeah, they said there was inconsistencies, but since it was just a photocopy, they couldn't make any claims.
Yeah.
Can't they subpoena that? The real one?
No, not Tom Grant. What's his name? Theorist Richard Lee was one of the first people to claim that the shotgun was planted after Cobain had been killed, as well as the fact that Kurt's face wasn't in any of the photos that were released. He said that there wasn't enough blood. This Richard Lee, he sued the Seattle Police Department to release more pictures or release everything, and he ended up losing that. And Courtney Love and this was in I think 2014 when the newest amount of photographs came out, because they had taken pictures at the crime scene.
Yeah.
They had taken pictures at the crime scene, and the film was never developed.
Right.
And those were the pictures in 2014 that you were talking about.
Okay. That they finally developed.
Yeah. And this Richard Lee was trying to get him to release that. He lost the case, and Courtney Love and Francis Bean won the right to seal the death photos from the public indefinitely. So I don't know the legalities behind that. It seems kind of strange to be able to do it forever.
Yeah.
But and maybe it's because it's a high profile case and people want to see them between morbidity and to figure out how to make a quick buck. There's plenty of reasons, I'm sure. Like this, if this guy would have gotten the pictures, he would have written a book and then potentially made a bunch of money on it.
Yeah.
But even then, the police at the crime scene claimed that the gun was in a consistent fashion, even though it was on his right side and Kurt was left-handed.
Left-handed.
Yeah, because his left hand was on the barrel, is what they said, and that the gun was upside down, as in the trigger was pointing up away from his body, and that the way the shell should have ejected to his left side, but it was on his right side.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, there was no splatter on his hand or on his shoes or anything if he was sitting up to do it. And then besides the fact that he was 5'7" or something like that.
Oh, he was short.
Yeah, he was a little guy, and there's pictures of the gun online, and it's almost could he even reach, because they did a little drawing where if he was sitting on the floor and then had it between his legs, the barrel's over his head.
Oh,
so he'd have to angle it way down and then try to reach it.
You look like you're smoking a bong right
now. That's what it kind of, yeah. And they try to reach it with his thumb or something, or a finger to shoot himself in the head.
Yeah.
One of the theories is maybe he was laying down when he did it, but he'd have to have his head at such a weird angle and his wrist splayed so funky to be able to pull the trigger to do it, that's also
yeah. And one of the other facts that this Richard Lee points to is the fact that there was no usable fingerprints on the gun.
Yeah.
That potentially somebody had wiped them away. But also when you're rolling around and moving it around, and people don't just press their finger onto a gun if they're going to use it, and then as soon as it fires, it's going to have blowback. It's going to shift and move. And I don't know the physics of finger oils on things.
Well, like a shotgun, you want to have a good grip.
Yeah, and you think even if he's taking it up there, he's going to have to touch it.
Well, he was also... Well, potentially.
And what about palm prints?
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, potentially he was on heroin, and it's not like he was in the woods trying to take a crack shot at a buck, you know, at 100 yards. I mean, he was obviously he was kind of doing it a little bit, you know, lack of a better term, shooting from the hip.
So after he shot himself, he wiped it down?
No, I think maybe I would think if he committed suicide that he was kind of wrestling with the gun like you're wrestling with your, you know, thoughts. So he's not just picking it up in one spot. Like if I've shot a lot of guns in my day. If I was going to pick up a gun and use it, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
If you're maybe not as comfortable and which I don't know his history with guns, and you're in an altered state of mind, you might kind of fumble around with it. I guess I've never seen somebody non-experienced pick up a gun, I suppose, now that I say that out loud.
Yeah, but I think he was pretty experienced. He had a bunch of guns. He was almost like a gun nut.
Oh, really?
Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's plenty of pictures of him holding guns.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I sent you one, an automatic.
Yeah. And there were no fingerprints on the shells or the box either. But also with that, there was a lady that said because he was in a greenhouse that the humidity could have played a part with it. Because he wasn't found for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, in the middle of April, though it is Washington. I don't know what the temperature's like that far north, in that it's always a kind of overcast in Washington, I feel like.
Yeah.
But maybe that also means muggy.
Right.
So I've taken a gun camping. It didn't really cover it up, and it was just covered in moisture, like morning dew.
Yeah. I don't know. It had a lot of windows in the place. The doors were closed, but I guess we don't know if there was a window open or... Yeah,
but they also said they didn't process the gun for a month.
Come on now.
And then they didn't even check the bullets until like a couple years later.
What the fuck?
Because they were just like, oh, it's a suicide.
But one thing I did see, there was an expert who had brought up the fact that so that Richard Lee had said that there wasn't enough blood. There was an expert that had said that he was using birdshot as opposed to buckshot, so the blood splattering was because Richard Lee said that none of the pictures he saw had his face in it.
Yeah.
So he said that maybe he didn't even get shot in the face or wasn't shot at all. And this person said, yeah, the amount of blood that there is similar to the way they've done tests with certain types of birdshot. So, and I think this guy was just trying to make wild swings to...
Yeah. Well, it was a 20 gauge or 22 gauge?
20 gauge.
Yeah. And I think it was... I didn't think to look at the picture of the cartridge to like try to read what it was, but I think it was birdshot.
Yeah. Which I think is a weird thing to buy for suicide as opposed to self-defense. Self-defense, they say you want something that'll spread out because that's going to slow somebody a little bit more. You don't have to be as accurate.
But also, if you're shooting them from far enough away, it's just like getting hit by a bunch of BBs, so it's not necessarily lethal,
right?
Unless you're right up on them. But they said that because he shot himself in the mouth, so then it all just kind of stayed inside of his head.
Oof.
Like he didn't blow his head off; it just like mushed his brain up, pretty much.
Yikes!
But still, like, how much blood would pour out of your mouth, and then you're just gonna fall back? You're not gonna slump over? Or...
Well, and again, I'm no expert on gunshots, but I mean, they're coming out of there. They're gonna be hot. A bunch of little cauterized wounds in that soft palate,
maybe, or
aliens,
or Callie, the nanny who was there, maybe was like, "Hey, Kurt, want to do some heroin? And then he gave him a hot dose. Kurt passes out. He runs in the house, gets the shotgun with the garden gloves on, sticks it in his mouth, puts his hand on it. Or maybe doesn't, because they say, because his left hand was on there, he might have, been trying to pull it out of his mouth, and they got shot that way.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was thinking, especially after you say that he had track marks on both arms, and one sleeve was pulled down and buttoned potentially. It makes me think maybe he was doing heroin. Somebody else came in, gave him a higher dose to kill him. But if you aren't a scientist, maybe you don't know exactly how much to give somebody to kill him. So you also then shoot him to make sure.
A former junkie.
Yeah. Right. Or vice versa. Maybe you shoot him and then you're like, oh shit. Also then give him more heroin. I think the tracks on both sides, and then because why would you I don't know why you would do more heroin and shoot him, but again you're in an altered state because you're trying to kill somebody, so maybe I think makes you think a little irrationally, because you're already thinking irrationally because you're killing somebody.
Did we already talk about Courtney could have hired a bodyguard? I don't know if you mentioned that or not.
No.
Because of the divorce thing.
Expand on it.
That's all I can remember. I can't remember the names because I haven't read the book.
What's the order you think happened, and who'd she hire it for?
I have read that it's possible that she hired a hitman, and they say his name.
El Duce?
No. She wanted to hire him as a hitman.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Oh, I thought you said bodyguard. Oh, okay. Yes. She wanted to hire El Duce.
Yeah, who...
Is he that big guy?
Yeah, that big guy who's crazy. Because he got interviewed for that... Well, he was interviewed for Geraldo, I think, or Unsolved Mysteries even talked to him.
I didn't see that.
Because he did some lie detector tests that he passed.
I heard about that. I didn't see it. I think he was for sure interviewed on that Kurt and Courtney.
Yeah. And he was saying that he used to work... He was a lead singer in a band and known to be one of those G.G. Allen types.
Yeah.
And... he was working at a record store, and Courtney pulled up in a limousine and came in and was like, "Hey, I'll give you $5,000 to kill my husband."
I thought it was
50,000. Yeah. And she's like, "What?"
It would be more than 5.
Yeah. And she's like, "Yeah, blow his fucking brains out." And I guess he ended up turning it down because he actually had a gig he had to go to.
If he didn't have that damn gig.
But there's if you watch the clip. It's like El Duce, but it's for Kurt and Courtney. He actually says, no, but I know who did it, and blah, blah, blah.
Refuses to say who it is.
Yeah, but then he's like, oh, you have to ask Alan, or it slipped, this Alan guy.
Huh.
And he happened to be friends with this guy named Alan Wrench, who also was in a band that was one of these tough biker hit you with a lead pipe and ask questions later kind of guys.
Okay.
And so supposedly Courtney then went to the Alan Wrench, cool punk name.
Yeah.
And got him to kill Kurt. And the thing that maybe not adds validity to it, but adds a mystery to it, is this El Duce, 2 days after doing the interview for the Kurt and Courtney documentary, and after doing all the lie detector tests and stuff, mysteriously gets drunk and then stumbles in front of a train and
he stumbled in front of the train? I assumed it hit his car or something.
I just know he got hit by a train and died.
Okay.
Whose vehicle gets hit by a car?
It's hit by a train.
Well, it's all over the internet.
Yeah. But they said it was also a busy intersection with those arms that come down.
With the arms?
Yeah, so that's why I thought maybe he wasn't in a car.
Yeah.
But even so, if he was just in this weird intersection. Maybe he just got nudged. Oh, whoa, no, my friend was drunk and he fell in front of the train. Can we take your name? Yeah, Alan.
Well, and that Tom Grant, who Courtney originally hired, his first thought, especially after seeing the note, was that Courtney had something to do with his death. And he, from what I had seen, he never really gave a lot of reasons other than she was acting really weird after he died, and she's just kind of a crazy person. But now the guy's trying to sell like their recorded conversations on the internet for like up to $180.
Yeah,
which I think that's weird.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
and you can get in if you want to have a phone interview with them. It's so much money. And,
yeah,
or if you want them actually on your show, it's costs so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's also another thing where while there's variations to all the stories is because it depends on who you talk to is the story that you get. And it kind of seems like everybody wants to be his best friend. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't know what's going on. I know, because I know Kurt. They don't know Kurt. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So then everybody's kind of got their fingers in the cookie jar, maybe trying to make a buck off.
Which is probably also why he didn't want to do music anymore. How insincere people can be.
Yeah. How parasitic they are.
Yeah.
I think in his suicide note, it did say like something like, I just hate people and I'm tired of people.
He's not enjoying it.
He's not enjoying it anymore.
Yeah. That's all I really had.
That's all you got?
The last thing I did see was like probably some depression or something. I heard that he originally wanted to rename En Utero to I Hate Myself and I Want to Die, which I think was, from what I had heard, is also something that he said a lot as like, oh, hey, Kurt, how you doing? I hate myself and I want to die.
He also wanted to name Nevermind Sheep.
Just sheep?
Yeah.
Huh.
You know what that means, right?
Like sheeple?
Yeah. Someone will do whatever they're told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you asked me why Pat Smear joined the band.
Yeah.
Because I think En Utero would have been impossible with just one guitar.
Oh, for the sound they were going for? Okay. Because I was watching... I'm going to self-deprecate, but I had a couple pops in me, and I was watching the video you sent me from Seattle's like Live and Loud or something like that, and I was trying to tell the two guitars apart, and I couldn't really tell, and then I was like, I wonder if maybe they brought on Pat Smear, so like on tour, if maybe Kurt was a little more fucked up than normal, they had a guitarist to kind of back him up. They just like turned down Kurt's guitar. Yeah, because in that video he's playing, but then he's right up against the speaker, like trying to hear. And that could just also be how he plays, because he is very eccentric and runs around the stage and does the feedback and is actually a really excellent guitarist. And so I was like, because like I said, had a couple pops. I'm like, is he trying to hear? Like they don't have his guitar turned up?
Get the feedback. Yeah,
and get the feedback. And then there's that. So I'm like, did they bring him in as a backup? And then there's Penny Real T. If you watch the unedited version of the Unplugged for MTV's Unplugged, he's talking about he's going to do it by himself. And Dave Grohl's like, oh, you're not going to sing? And points at Pat. And he's like, no, we're going to let him do it by himself. And he's like, what song? And like, Chris Novoselic is like, Penny Real Tea. And he's like, oh. And he's like, Pat, do you have a smoke? And they just like leave. And it's like, it seems almost like they're not being kind of being disrespectful. Like, oh yeah, do it by yourself. Okay, hot shot. We're going to go have a smoke. And actually that song, he fucking kills it. So it worked out. But, you know, reading into it like that, and then knowing how he turned down Lollapalooza, because that was in November 93, and so 5 months later is the suicide and that probably horrible tour they went on, which I don't know. They probably still were professionals, but behind the scenes you don't know, especially if they're like on the verge of breaking up.
Yeah, which often happens with bands. You know, you get a lot of infighting and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's interesting. They're a very interesting band.
So I got a lot of DVDs, concert DVDs, and so I think I told Dave about it, and I tried watching it. I think it was at Reading Festival, but in the beginning, Roseanne comes out and screams something in the mic, and then leaves, and Chris comes out and pushes him out in a wheelchair in a white coat.
Yeah, like a straitjacket.
And then he falls backwards.
Yeah.
Gets back up, and he's like, "Some call love the river."
Yeah. Their live shows were crazy. Have you seen that one picture where he's completely upside down playing his guitar? Like he just threw himself in, kind of like doing a backflip, but not landing it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, like the picture
that's on the cover of Bleach.
Is it where he's straight up and down, like holding the guitar? Like you know that he's not going to land whatever this is that they caught him mid-picture.
Yeah.
And one of the legends is they were doing, before they were Nirvana and they were doing those college gigs, one of the first gigs they were doing, the cops got called right away, and everybody started like harassing the cops and being like, we didn't even get to hear the band. Come on, can we just hear the band and then we'll leave? And the cops were like, fine, 20 minutes. And because like under that pressure and like everybody expecting it, I guess they killed it. And Kurt was like so, I guess, happy with how they performed that he smashed his guitar.
Damn.
And that's like cemented them in college lore to be like, we want that band, they fucking rule.
We got a couple more good ones, and I showed you this one with he's in Texas singing Love Buzz.
Yeah.
And he jumps in the crowd, and his bouncer was pushing him back in the face, so he takes his guitar, smashes him over the face. The bouncer gets up, punches Kurt in the face, he falls down, and the whole band just rushes the bouncer.
Damn.
Yeah, because like back then, grunge, long haired, greasy teenagers, and you're a bouncer that is maybe like a, I don't know, like a biker guy or not,
twice the size at least.
Yeah, and your favorite song is Country Boys Can't Survive by Hank Williams. And you got to make sure that these kids who are like running up on stage and crowd surfing and probably hitting you in the head with boots and stuff, and then the lead singer is like leaning,
trying to get back on
the stage, but he's like pushing them, so he smacks him with his guitar. Yeah, it's crazy. And then I think that's the one. Did they end up coming back, or did they leave? They left, but they left by like climbing up the stage. And
what?
Like, yeah,
kick him out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And the last one I got, I think you've seen it on a DVD. He's playing "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah,
and Flea comes up and plays the trumpet with him.
Oh, that's cool.
With the song.
That's cool.
Yeah. So check him out. I mean, maybe the actual records, some of the songs might not be like your thing, but if you actually see him, like watch a live performance of him, it definitely makes it 2-3 times better.
Yeah, I could definitely see how. Well, especially back then, where I would imagine you're going to see shows for like maybe $50.
Not even.
Or, yeah, max.
Yeah.
You know, when they were big. Although maybe it sounds like he died a little before he really made it. But when shows used to be attainable and they were $15,000 or whatever,
right? Like maybe $25.
Yeah, I mean that cements you into and being able to see it live cements you into a culture for sure.
Yeah, and that's what they did, especially with Bleach, is they got play on like college radio stations, but not mainstream, and that really word of mouth, and that's why they like their fans so much, and that's why they toured a bunch with that album, just to get their name out there and to play for the kids. They weren't there, obviously not trying to make a buck, because they were on an indie label also.
Yeah. Cool. Got any closing words for us, Mike?
We talked about a lot. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you coming down here, Mikey T.
Yeah.
I just was stating the facts that weren't in the book that Dave wrote for tonight.
Suicide note? Serial killer note. Oh, yeah. I got it on the brain. Hey, folks, remember, if you're out there and you're struggling with, some mental struggles or whatever, make sure you reach out to a friend or a family member. Call 988, I believe, all over the U.S., that is, for help, man. There's no reason to suffer through that.
Yeah, and you can also call 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK.
Oh, nice.
Or if you don't feel like talking, you can text 741-741.
So remember, out there listening, we love you, and for gosh sakes, be good to yourselves. And remember, legends never die.
And do you have one word or phrase you want to end this podcast on?
Not thinking of one. my phone, but couldn't find like my books or DVDs.
That's okay. Dave looks like he came prepared.
Yeah.
Check, check.
Yeah. Doot.
Check, check.
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 Wait, scoot that closer to you.
Checkity jet.
Check. I can hear you. Yeah, not too bad of a setup Matt's got here.
That's all right. Makes you feel like you're doing something professional.
Yeah.
There we go.
I got one of those somewhere.
Somewhere.
Mixer.
Something is weird.
Just got no bars.
Check. I got bars. It's not very loud.
Check.
Is it going through the...
Yeah, I mean, it looks normal-ish.
Okay.
Just smaller than usual.
Huh. That's what she said.
Chet, is that too loud for you guys?
No. I'm deaf.
So what we're going to do is we're going to just start off talking a little bit, and if you want to tell a little bit about yourself, that's fine, whatever you're comfortable with. And we can always take stuff out, so no big deal if you say something and you want to retract it.
Oops, I don't know that.
You can... Do you need to spin that? Lift that up a little bit?
Yeah, help him out, Dave. Oh, that's just great.
That better?
There you go.
Oh, that's great. You get a burp out? Excuse me.